Some men die but once, but others are reborn only after dying twice within the dark corridors of fate. This is the story of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a soul forged in suffering, confronting death, and reborn through literature. As the first light of morning fell upon the courtyard of the Moscow hospital, little Fyodor walked among the muddy stones. The air had a sharp, metallic taste. The groans of patients from within mingled with the howling wind. Fyodor turned to his mother and asked, "Mother, why do people suffer so much?" His mother smiled, but behind that smile lay the frozen tears of the night. "Life is like this, Fyodor. Every pain teaches something." That day, Fyodor learned one thing: human fragility would one day become his greatest strength. And years passed. The child from that hospital courtyard grew up, turned pain into ink, and dissolved into the cold streets of St. Petersburg. Young Fyodor walked with only pennies in his pocket, but a massive world inside him. At midnight, holding the manuscript of Poor Folk, written by candlelight, his hands were trembling. He delivered the book to Belinsky, and when he returned to the streets, he could barely breathe. The next day, there was a knock at the door. Belinsky embraced him, eyes filled with tears. "Young man, you are the breath of Russia." The darkness had lifted, but fame was too bright for this fragile soul. Finding no solace in the halls of literature, Fyodor turned to a more dangerous path, towards secret rooms where forbidden ideas were whispered. And fate did not delay in issuing the bill. That morning, the sun had not yet risen. When he heard the harsh rhythm of boots, it was as if all the lights of the world had gone out. The door crashed open. Soldiers flooded in. "Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky, you are coming with us." Prison days began. Dampness, hunger, uncertainty. Months later, soldiers opened the cell door. "Get ready." He knew where he was being taken, but one can never be ready for this. Dragged from the darkness, into a crimson cold, onto Semyonov Square. In the snow-covered square, the wind cut his face like a whip. His eyes were blindfolded. Even his breath was invisible in the mist. "Ready!" shouted the soldier. Childhood, his mother, the first sentences he ever wrote, all flashed through his mind in an instant. A man can forget everything, he thought, but never the moment he first feels death. Aim. The world went silent. Even his heart stopped beating. And just as the order, "Fire," was about to come, the scream of a mounted officer was heard. "The sentence is commuted." Fyodor died that day, but the man who returned to his body was no longer the same person. On the road to Siberia, chains on his wrists, and a deep void inside him. The barracks were like dark shadows swallowing men whole. Prisoners did not cry anymore. Even their tears would freeze. With every stroke of the shovel, another piece of him broke away. But something else was happening. The voices of characters began to whisper within him. Raskolnikov's crime, the rage of the Karamazovs, the purity of Prince Mishkin. Siberia killed him, and for that very reason, it gave birth to him anew. 4 years later, his chains were removed, but the shackles on his soul remained. There was a new depth in Fyodor's eyes now. In a dim room by flickering candlelight, he began to write notes from the house of the dead. The words seemed to form themselves. "I have passed through suffering," he said. "That is why I understand humanity." He wrote the funeral and the resurrection of his own life. But the void inside was not yet filled. This time, fate dragged him to another table, the gambling table. Heartbeat at the moment of execution. Perhaps he didn't want to win, but to lose, because losing reminded him he was alive. Debts grew. Time ran out. Just as he was about to drown in the chaos of his own making, the door opened. A young woman entered. And his life was preparing to start for the third time. At first. But as Anna transferred the words to paper, the air in the room changed. Her patience, her silence, her smiling eyes were putting Fyodor's pieces back together. "Fyodor," she said, "you are not alone." For the first time in years, a single sentence tied him to life. And Dostoevsky, under this light, began to birth his greatest works. He had learned to control the darkness of man, and from this darkness, great works were born. Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons, The Brothers Karamazov. Every character was a piece of his soul. Every page was his heart beating again. And one day, the journey of this weary guide neared its end. When Fyodor died in 1881, the streets of St. Petersburg overflowed. 60,000 people walked silently behind him. This was one of the greatest farewells ever given to a writer. But Dostoevsky did not die that day. Death, for him, was only a new beginning. Because one who has lived by dying twice refuses to die a third time.
A man dies only once. Dostoevsky died twice. And in the end, he became immortal.